Hello, welcome to Thursday post, and I don't know, maybe like post 6, I think, from quarantine time. I guess at some point I'll have to stop keeping track of it by quarantine, but for now, it's number 6. Today's post will be a follow-up from Tuesday's post, where I talked about self-limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. So hopefully you had a couple days to think about a couple of thoughts that are coming to your head as your negative self-talk. So, and maybe you even wrote down one or two of those to address today. So today we'll talk about moving it and shifting it over into a positive self-talk so that we can start to shift that energy in a more permanent way so that it becomes actually part of you and not something you have to force to think or believe about yourself. So it's two parts. One part, I want to introduce a really easy movement technique. I do think that bringing in a movement component to shift things energetically in the body is very important, because these things get, like we talked about a couple times now, that we have that communication between the brain and the body, and that wiring gets pretty reinforced over and over. So just to do a really simple kind of combination of a movement and a breathing technique that you can do seated anywhere. That will be our step 1, and our step 2 will be implementing sort of a rewiring the thought training process by implementing a positive mantra, using some imagination to come up with that positive mantra, and then coming up with your own personal positive mantra. So we'll start with the movement piece first, and then I will meet you back over here for the second part. Okay, now for our movement piece of this, there will be 2 movements. The first one is doing a spinal flexion extension. The second one is a very gentle twisting motion that will involve the hands crossing the body left and right. Both of these movements are geared at tapping into the energy that's stored in the pelvis area. Both Chinese medicine, through the use of Qigong, and in yoga, have different, particularly Kundalini yoga, have different movements geared towards activating with either the Kundalini energy or the Yang Ming fire in Chinese medicine, activating that stored energy and trying to kind of swirl up the spine to the head to help with clear thought, to help with imagination. So we're going to do those 2 movements to get things moving and kind of fired up so that we can proceed to the next step of today's exercise. So with your eyes closed, you can sit in easy pose, or you can sit in a half lotus, whatever is comfortable for you. Hands come to rest on the knees, and I'll just do it in easy pose. Hands rest on the knees. We'll be doing each exercise for about 30 breaths. So sitting up tall, spine, I won't do the whole 30 reps. I will just demo it because we'll be here too long. So, and also get over, I might look goofy. I don't care. Then you don't need to care either. So eyes closed, sitting up tall. Belly button pulled into the spine. Crown is lifted to the ceiling. We're going to inhale, chest comes forward, throat opens, and the spine is extending long out of the pelvis area. And then exhale, we're going to round back, belly button tucks in towards the spine, chin comes down towards the chest, spine is rounded, shoulders are rounded. Inhale, press through. Exhale, round. Inhale through. Exhale, round back. Come to rest at center. That was about 15 breaths, I think. And I'm also breathing in my nose, out my mouth. So for that technique, in the nose, out the mouth. Inhale, exhale, round. That should feel good after you're done with that, just like you got some nice oxygen up to the brain. Second one is our seated spinal twist. Very gentle movement. Very important to keep your belly button in towards your spine and pulling and sitting out of the pelvis. Make sure you're not rounding into your low back at all. Really keeping that nice tall posture. The top of the head is really lifted towards the ceiling. So sitting up tall. Again, we're going to close our eyes. This movement is going to be a spinal twist side to side. The hands will follow to tap We're going to tap as we twist to the right, or sorry, when we twist to the left, the right hand is going to come around and wrap around the left hip, and vice versa. This is a way of activating that energy that's stored in the back, the kidney area, so we're just going to be kind of tapping into that. This is a Qigong type of a movement, so closing our eyes, inhale, inhale left, exhale right. And as you reach your, this was about 15, just come to slow towards the center and pause in the center and open the eyes. So that was about 15 breaths for both the exercises. Ideally you could do 30, you could do 60, however long feels good, but try to at least do it for 15 breaths. See how you feel, but it really should kind of instantly wake you up. You should feel nice and a little just more clear-headed. So this will precede our next exercise, which I will meet you back over in the chair for. All right, now on to part 2, which is implementing our imagination in order to help us create a positive mantra for ourselves. So I have a book that I have referred to on and off. It's called the Master Key System, and it was written in 1912, and it is now put together as a 24-week process guide to how to use meditation to kind of change your mental processing and change your life, essentially. It's very wordy, but it has some really, really great nuggets that I like to pull out of here. And one line I want to read here to start today is, or to start this part, is that imagination is the constructive form of thought, which must precede every constructive form of action. So if you think about that for a minute, before anything can happen that you want to have happen, you think of it first. So even if it's, I want to make a cake, you have the thought, I want to make a cake, then you go to the store, you buy the ingredients, you make the cake. So every little thing that we do in a day, we have the thought preceding the action. And sometimes we have to really tap into our imagination of what we want in order to have the thought to precede the action. So after you've done your breathing movement exercise, if you just could spend 2 minutes, eyes closed, and let your imagination just kind of bubble up something that you sort of dream of or wish you could do or have thought about doing, and just let that sort of swirl around in your head. Imagine it as vividly as you can. And just kind of sit with that thought for a few minutes. So we want to start inputting things that are positive things that you would like to have accomplish or be able to do in your life. So taking a couple minutes to just sit and let your imagination very constructively think about that. Not daydreaming and like, oh, I wish I could just be on a beach and sit by the pool all day, and that would be, I just wish I could go do that right now. Not that, that's daydreaming. And imagination is, I imagine myself doing X, Y, Z, and very clearly picturing yourself doing that. So that is our imagination tool, and using that tool, after you have time to kind of sit with what picture comes to head, I want you to then come up with a phrase that reflects that action in your mind. So if it's, I want to make videos for YouTube, you imagine that. Okay, I'm going to make videos for YouTube, and then you just repeat in your head, I'm going to do this, I can do this, I am capable of doing this. Whatever it is that you want to imagine that you can do, then you just keep reinforcing that thought in your head. And if for right now you're not able to come up with something super specific, even just giving yourself the thought of, I am good enough, I am balanced, I am healthy, anything to just reinforce a thought that is positive, that will negate any of the anxiety, worry-driven thoughts that are popping up in your head. So the point of this is that when a negative self-talk bubbles up, we have a tool that is so easily accessible for you to use to just negate it immediately, so that you're not searching for like, oh, I wish I knew how to get that thought out of my head. You have a tool already at hand in your mind that you know you can repeat and negate that thought. It's that easy, it's that simple, it's just a matter of having the tool available for you to use when you need it. So today, we have done our little movement just to move the energy around and shift things and kind of stir up some stagnant energy, get it moving so that we can get those negative thoughts to kind of loosen up a little bit, and then provide yourself the space to do a brief little imagination about what it is you'd like to have, like to do, and then finding the very specific words for you to use to replace those negative thoughts when they bubble up. So that might have been a lot. If you are unclear on anything, feel free to ask me. Hopefully it made sense, and it's an easy tool that you will be able to implement on your own. Again, if you're interested in the book, it's called The Master Key System. It is, like I said, kind of wordy, but it is full of a lot of really good nuggets of information. So that's the Thursday post for this week. I hope to see you back here next week on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.